The spoon slipped from my hand and clattered against the plate as Emily's eyes rolled back in her head. One moment my daughter-in-law was laughing at a joke, the next her body went stiff, then limp, and her chair tipped backward. People screamed. The turkey knife fell from my son's hand. Emily's arm hit the edge of the table and dragged the tablecloth down with her. Plates crashed on the floor. Gravy splashed everywhere. That same, special gravy, my son had begged me to taste. "Call 911, someone shouted. I dropped to my knees beside her. Her lips were turning pale, and her breaths were short and strange, like she was trying to pull air through a tiny straw. I grabbed her hand. It was ice cold. "Emily, sweetheart, stay with me," I cried. "Open your eyes." My son, Daniel, just stood there for a second, frozen. His face went white, then red, then white again. The spoon he had used to serve the gravy was still in his hand. It was shaking so badly that drops of brown sauce fell on the rug like tiny muddy tears. "Mom, she ate your plate," he whispered. No, she had not. She had eaten hers. Or so he thought. Because only 30 minutes earlier, when Daniel was not looking, I had quietly switched our plates. And as I knelt beside his wife, listening to the sound of the ambulance siren getting closer, I looked up at my son and saw something in his eyes that terrified me more than anything in my entire life. It was not fear. It was not shock. It was something else. If you had been there, sitting at my Thanksgiving table, you would have seen it too. Now let me tell you how we got to that moment. Thanksgiving morning had started simple and warm, the way I liked it. I am an old woman, and my knees hurt when it is cold, but that morning I felt light. The whole house smelled of roasted turkey, butter, and cinnamon. The radio played soft Christmas songs even though it was still November, and the sun peeked in through my kitchen window. I had been planning this dinner for weeks. My son, Daniel, and his wife, Emily, were bringing the kids. My younger daughter, Lily, was coming with her husband. It was our first Thanksgiving all together in 3 years. Work, travel, and some arguments had kept us apart before. I wanted this year to be different. I wanted peace. As I mashed the potatoes, I hummed to myself. Then I heard footsteps. Daniel walked into the kitchen, holding a small glass jar. He was 35 now, tall, with tired eyes and a beard that needed trimming. He used to be such a cheerful boy. Lately, there was a heaviness around him, like a gray cloud he carried everywhere. "Morning, Mom," he said, kissing my cheek. "Need help?" "You can stir the gravy," I answered, smiling. "But do not burn it like last time." He laughed, but it did not reach his eyes. He opened the jar and sprinkled something into the pot. "What is that?" I asked. "A special mix," he replied. "A chef at work gave me the recipe. You will love it. I made it just for you. Just for me." He stirred the gravy carefully, watching it thicken. For a moment I felt proud. My son, in my kitchen, cooking with me. It was a quiet, low moment, but a happy one. It made my heart feel full. But the peace did not last long. Later that morning, I walked past the guest room where Daniel and Emily had put their bags. The door was slightly open. I did not mean to listen, but their voices came out sharp and angry. "You promised you would not talk about it today," Emily whispered. She sounded upset. "We do not have a choice," Daniel muttered. "She needs to decide. I cannot wait forever." My hand paused on the wall. "She is your mother," Emily said. "You cannot force her." "You do not understand," he replied. "If I do not get that money, we are finished. The house, the debts, everything." My heart sank. I knew what money they meant. My will, my savings, the house. I stepped back quietly and walked away, my chest tight. I had always known Daniel struggled with money. He had made some bad choices, borrowed from the wrong people, tried to fix it with more loans. I had helped him many times. But lately, I had started saying no. You cannot save someone who will not change. That was a hard lesson I had learned in my long life. Still, he was my son. At noon, Emily came to help in the kitchen. She smiled, but her eyes were red, like she had been crying. She chopped carrots and tried to act normal. "Emily," I said softly, "is everything all right?" She looked at me for a long second, then forced a small smile. "We are just stressed," she said. "Money, work, the kids. You know how it is, Mom. I wanted to ask more, but she turned away quickly and began rinsing the dishes. The moment slid away like soap in water. A low moment again. Quiet, but sad. By late afternoon, the table was set. The turkey was golden and beautiful. The kids ran around with paper hats. My daughter Lily arrived with gifts and noise. The house was full of voices and laughter. For a little while, it felt like old times. Then Daniel came in from the kitchen, carrying the gravy boat and a wide, strange smile. "Everyone, you have to try this," he said. "But Mom first. I made it for her." He leaned over me and poured the thick brown gravy all over the mashed potatoes on the plate in front of my chair. The smell was strong, richer than usual. He placed the plate at my spot, then went around, giving simple gravy to everyone else. "Special recipe just for you, Mom," he repeated. Something inside me twisted. His words from earlier echoed in my head. "If I do not get that money, we are finished." I looked up at him. His eyes were on my plate, not on me. Watching, waiting. My heart began to pound. What if I was wrong? What if I was just a scared old woman thinking too much? But what if I was not? I looked at Emily. She sat across from me, tired but kind, cutting the kids' turkey into small pieces. She gave me a warm smile. "Eat, Mom," she said. "You worked so hard." I picked up my fork, my hand shaking. Everyone else began to talk and laugh again. No one was watching me anymore. No one except Daniel. Slowly, without making a sound, I moved my plate across the table and switched it with Emily's while she was busy wiping mashed potatoes off my grandson's chin. It took only 2 seconds. When she looked back down, the special plate was in front of her. "Go on, Mom," Daniel urged from my side. "Taste it." I forced a smile and dipped my fork into the plain potatoes on my new plate. Across from me, Emily took a big, happy bite of the gravy-covered ones. I watched my son's face carefully. At first, he looked excited. Then confused. He stared at my plate. Then at hers. Then at me. His lips parted. "Mom, what did you just do?" he whispered. Before I could answer, Emily's fork slipped from her hand and clinked against the edge of her plate. Her eyes went wide. I do not feel," she gasped. Her body swayed. And as I jumped up from my chair and the room exploded in screams, my eyes landed on something small and horrible sticking to the rim of the gravy boat on the table. A tiny white pill, half melted, shining wet in the brown sauce. The siren faded into the distance as the ambulance rushed Emily away. My living room looked like a storm had torn through it. Chairs overturned. Food scattered across the floor. Guests pale and silent. The children sobbing in Lily's arms. But the loudest silence came from Daniel. He stood in the doorway long after the ambulance disappeared, fists clenched so tight his knuckles looked like chalk. His jaw moved like he was chewing on words he couldn't spit out. I finally walked up to him. My legs were wobbling, but my voice was steady. "Daniel," I said, "we need to talk." He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at the empty road. "You switched the plates," he whispered at last. "You switched them on purpose." His voice wasn't angry. It was something worse. Shock, mixed with a fear that made my stomach twist. Before I could answer, Lily stepped between us. Her face was hard. "Daniel, what was in that gravy?" she demanded. "Tell the truth." He snapped his head toward her. "Nothing. I don't know. Why would I hurt Emily? Think for once." His voice cracked at the end, like he wasn't sure of his own words. I wanted to believe him. Heaven knows I did. He was my son. But I had seen that pill. I had seen his face when he realized I didn't eat the gravy. Something wasn't right. Still, this wasn't the moment for shouting. The kids were scared. Everyone was confused. We needed calm. So I placed my hand on Lily's arm and gave her a look. She stepped back, biting her lip. "Come inside," I said to Daniel. "Sit." We went into the living room. The smashed dishes lay on the floor, but I didn't have the strength to clean them yet. Daniel sat on the edge of the couch. He looked like a frightened little boy. "Tell me everything," I said. "What did you put in that gravy? And don't lie to me." He stared at the rug. "It was just a recipe. A spice mix. Nothing dangerous. I swear it, Mom." "Then why that jar?" I asked. "What did your friend give you?" He rubbed his forehead. It wasn't a friend. It was a coworker. He told me it would help with stress. Help me relax. Just herbs, he said. Lily crossed her arms. So you put a stress herb in our Thanksgiving gravy? Who does that? Daniel groaned into his hands. It wasn't like that. He said it was natural. That it would make the food taste better. I didn't know it could hurt anyone. I watched him closely. His hands trembled, his breathing shallow. Something was off. He was scared, but I couldn't tell if it was fear of guilt or fear of being blamed. Before I could question him further, my phone buzzed. Everyone froze. It was the hospital. Hello. My voice cracked. Is this Mrs. Thompson? You brought in a woman named Emily Thompson. Yes. How is she? Please tell me. The doctor paused. That pause sank into my bones. She's stable for now, he said carefully. But we need to know what she consumed. Something in her system caused a severe reaction. My heart thudded. Daniel's head shot up. What kind of reaction? I asked. A neurotoxic response. Sudden collapse, slowed breathing. We need to identify the substance quickly. Do you know what she ate in the last hour? I closed my eyes. Gravy. She ate gravy my son prepared. The doctor exhaled sharply. Bring any remaining sample if possible. We need to test it. I will. I hung up. The room went silent. Slow, heavy, dangerous silence. Daniel stood. Mom, did they say she's going to be okay? Stable doesn't mean safe, I replied. And they need the gravy. They need to test it. He swallowed hard. Mom, don't take it to them. My blood went cold. Lily gasped. Why not? I asked. Daniel's hands shook again. Because you're going to blame me. And if they find something bad in that gravy, you'll think I did it on purpose. His voice cracked again. He looked like he might collapse himself. You switched the plates, he whispered. Why? Why would you do that? I took a deep breath. I didn't want to accuse him without proof. But I also wasn't going to lie. Because I heard you, I said quietly. In the hallway, talking about money, saying you needed me to decide. Saying you were desperate. His head dropped. Mom, he murmured. You don't understand. Then make me understand, I said. Make me believe you didn't try to hurt me. He opened his mouth to speak. But just then, a loud knock exploded through the house. 3 hard, fast bangs. Everyone jumped. Lily grabbed the kids tight. I stepped toward the door. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Because outside, through the small window by the porch, I saw blue and red flashing lights. The police were here, and they were coming for someone. Before I could reach the door, Daniel whispered something that broke me. Mom, if they ask, don't let them take me. But I didn't even have time to answer. Because the door flew open. And an officer stepped inside. Mrs. Thompson, he said, his voice sharp. We need to speak with your son. Immediately. The officer's voice hit the room like a hammer. Daniel jolted to his feet, shaking his head fast, like a trapped animal searching for a way out. Lily stepped back, shielding the children, and the little ones buried their faces in her sweater, sensing danger even if they didn't understand it. Why do you need to speak with me? Daniel stuttered. The officer didn't blink. We have concerns about what happened to your wife. The hospital contacted us. They believe her collapse may be connected to something she consumed at your Thanksgiving dinner. My stomach tightened. This was happening too fast. Too suddenly. I didn't do anything. Daniel cried. His voice cracked, wild and raw. I swear it, officer. I didn't poison anyone. The word, poison, made the children scream. Lily held them closer. Sir, the officer said calmly, we're not saying you're guilty. But you need to come with us to answer some questions. No, Daniel whispered. Not now. I have to go to the hospital. I have to see Emily. You'll be allowed to see her once we understand the situation, the officer replied. I saw Daniel's knees give a tiny shake, the way they used to when he was a boy caught doing something wrong. But this wasn't stealing cookies or breaking a window. This was life and death. Officer, I said, stepping forward even though my legs trembled, let us get the gravy. The hospital needs it tested. Let him help us bring it. The officer turned to me. The hospital already requested a sample. We'll need to take it as evidence. Evidence. The word was a cold knife. Daniel's hands shot up. No, you can't just. Daniel, stop, I said sharply. Let them do their job. He looked at me then. Really looked. His eyes were red, desperate, terrified, and something else. Something that made my heart ache. Mom, please trust me, he whispered. My throat tightened. Then tell them the truth. The officer stepped closer. Mr. Thompson, are you coming with us peacefully? Daniel's breath hitched. He looked at the door, then at the back window, then at me. For one horrible second, I thought he might run. But his shoulders dropped. His energy drained out like water from a broken cup. I'll come, he said. Just, don't scare my kids. The officer nodded and gently guided him toward the door. He didn't handcuff him, and I was grateful. The children didn't need to see that. Before he stepped outside, Daniel turned back to me. His eyes were full of fear and guilt tangled together like messy wires. Mom, he said quietly, you switched the plates for a reason. But I swear, I never meant for anyone to get hurt. Not you, not Emily. Then he left, swallowed by flashing lights. The house felt hollow after the door closed behind him. Lily slowly released the crying children and guided them upstairs to rest. My neighborhood, once calm and friendly, felt suddenly dark outside the windows. I walked to the dining table, ignoring the ache in my knees. The broken dishes still lay on the floor. The spilled gravy had soaked into the tablecloth, leaving an ugly stain. I lifted the gravy boat carefully. There was still a small amount left. The same gravy the doctor wanted tested. The same gravy the police considered evidence. And sitting on the rim, the half-melted pill was still there. I stared at it for a long moment. My hands shook. Lord help us, I whispered. Who would give my son something like this? Why would he trust a coworker so blindly? Was this really an accident, or was there more to the story? A low moment washed over me. Heavy and sad. My family was breaking apart on a day meant for gratitude and love. I placed the gravy boat gently on the counter. The officer outside was already writing a report. They would be back in a minute to collect it. But before I could step away, I heard the quiet click of a door opening behind me. I turned. Lily stood at the kitchen in trance, her face pale, but her eyes sharp. Mom, she said softly, there's something you need to know. My heart skipped. What is it? She walked toward me slowly, wringing her hands. You think Daniel did this, she said. But, you don't know half of what's been happening. Lily, what are you talking about? She took a breath and looked straight at me. Last week, Emily called me crying, she whispered. She was scared, not of Daniel, but of someone else. Someone who's been threatening them. My body went cold. Who? Lily opened her mouth to answer. But a sudden, sharp knock hit the door again. This time different. Faster. Harder. Urgent. I froze. Lily froze. The children upstairs fell silent. Mrs. Thompson, a new voice called from outside, louder and more serious than the last officer's, open the door please. We have new information about your daughter-in-law's condition. My breath caught in my throat. Something had changed at the hospital. And whatever news they brought, it wasn't going to be simple. The knocking grew louder, and when I finally reached for the door handle, my hand was shaking. My fingers hovered on the door handle, trembling so hard I could barely keep my grip steady. Lily stood behind me, clutching her hands together, her face pale as paper. The knocking grew sharper, more urgent, as if the news itself was pounding to be let in. When I finally opened the door, 2 officers stood on the porch. One was the same man who had taken Daniel. The other was a woman with stern eyes and a notebook already open. Their faces told me everything. Something had gone wrong. Mrs. Thompson, the woman said firmly, we need to speak with you and your daughter. It's about Emily. My knees weakened. Did she get worse? The woman shook her head. She regained consciousness. For a second, relief washed through me. But it didn't last. Because the officer added, and she's talking. Something in his tone made my heart stop. Please come in, I whispered, stepping aside. They entered the living room. Lily followed slowly, her eyes darting nervously. The officers didn't sit. They stood tall, serious, watching us closely. The woman opened her notebook. Before we continue, we need the gravy sample. The hospital is ready to test it immediately. I nodded and handed it over. The melted pill glistened on the rim like a tiny, evil secret. She inspected it, touched nothing, then sealed it inside a clear evidence bag. Now, the woman continued, we're here because your daughter-in-law gave a statement. She said she believes someone poisoned her, but she doesn't think it was her husband. Lily gasped. My hand flew to my chest. What? I whispered. If not Daniel, then who? The officer paused, looking at both of us. She mentioned a person who has been threatening your son and his family. Lily's lips parted. That's what I was trying to tell Mom before you came. I turned to her sharply. Lily, what is going on? She took a deep breath. Mom, Daniel and Emily have been dealing with someone dangerous. A man Daniel owed money to. A man who said he would hurt their family if Daniel didn't pay him back. My heart sank. Why didn't Daniel tell me? He was ashamed, Lily whispered. He didn't want you to know how bad things had gotten. The woman officer nodded. Emily said this man has been calling them nonstop. Threatening their kids. Following them. She thinks he might have slipped something into the house earlier this week. Something Daniel mistakenly used in the gravy. The room swayed. You mean, Daniel didn't know? We don't know anything for certain yet, the woman replied. But Emily insisted we check their home, their bags, and anything this man might have left behind. I put a hand to my mouth, breathing hard. Pieces were falling into place, but the picture was getting darker, not clearer. So Emily thinks she was the real target. Lily whispered. The male officer shook his head. Actually, she believes Daniel was the target. She thinks the man wanted Daniel harmed. And she says Daniel made the gravy special for you, Mrs. Thompson, because he was trying to impress you. Trying to make peace. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. So, switching the plates, saved my life. I whispered. Neither officer answered. They didn't need to. My chest tightened painfully. The thought of my own child being hurt, or worse, made my breath cut short. Where is Emily now? Lily asked. She's under observation, the woman said. She asked us to warn you and to check your house for anything suspicious. This man may have been inside your home before today. My stomach dropped. I looked around my living room, suddenly paranoid. The windows, the back door, the guest room where Daniel and Emily had stayed the day before. Is the house safe? I asked quietly. Probably, the officer replied. But we need to search it. He stepped away to radio other units. The woman officer stayed with us. Lily sat on the couch, tears forming. Mom, I didn't know it was this bad. I thought maybe Daniel was just stressed. But Emily kept telling me she was worried something awful would happen soon. Her voice cracked. I didn't think she meant something like this. I sat beside her, holding her hand. We will get through this. We will protect each other. But inside, my thoughts were racing. If someone dangerous had been threatening my family, could he still be watching us now? Listening. Waiting. The woman officer suddenly stiffened and turned toward the hallway. Did someone else enter the house earlier today? She asked. No, I replied. Only family. She frowned. Then why is the back door unlocked? A cold shiver crawled down my spine. Lily gasped. We locked it hours ago, she whispered. I remember doing it. The officer drew her flashlight and motioned for us to stay back. She moved toward the kitchen slowly, checking corners, her hand hovering near her holster. I felt my heart pound against my ribs. She reached the back door and stopped. The lock was scratched, damaged, as if someone had forced it open recently. Mrs. Thompson, she said, her voice low and dangerous, you and your daughter need to step out of the house immediately. Before we could react, a heavy thud echoed from the upstairs hallway. Another thud. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming toward the stairs. Lily grabbed my arm. The officer drew her weapon. Is anyone else in this house? She demanded. My breath caught. My voice came out barely a whisper. No. Then a shadow appeared at the top of the stairs. Large, still, watching us. The officer aimed her weapon. Show yourself, she shouted. The shadow stepped forward, and I felt every hair on my body stand up. Because whoever it was not supposed to be in our home. And he was walking straight toward us. The shadow paused at the top of the stairs, tall and unmoving, like a dark figure carved into the dim hallway. Lily clutched my arm so tightly her nails dug into my skin. The female officer took a firm stance, gun raised, voice strong but cautious. Come down slowly. Hands where I can see them. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shadow stepped fully into the light. My breath left my body. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't the man who threatened Daniel. It was Daniel. His face was red from crying. His hair was messy. His chest rose and fell quickly, like he had run all the way here. When he reached the middle of the stairs, he lifted both hands to show he wasn't armed. Stop pointing the gun at me, he pleaded, voice shaking. Please. I didn't run from the police. I asked them to drop me here. I needed to talk to my mom. The officer didn't lower her weapon. That's not what we were told. They said you left the station on your own. Daniel rubbed his face with both hands. I didn't escape. I begged them to let me see my mother. They refused. So I walked out of the interview room. The officers were busy processing evidence. I panicked and ran. That's not helping your case, the officer snapped. Daniel stared at her with wild eyes. I don't care about my case. I care about my family. He pointed at me. Mom, I need you to listen. I didn't poison anyone. I promise. I never would. Lily stepped forward, shaking. Then who did, Daniel? Who? Daniel opened his mouth, and froze as heavy footsteps sounded from the back door. The male officer who had been outside rushed in, breathless. We found prints on the back door. Fresh ones. The female officer's eyes widened. Not his. She nodded toward Daniel. No, he said. Bigger. Someone else was inside this house recently. My entire body went cold. Daniel stepped off the last stair and held his hands to his chest, trembling. I've been trying to tell you, the man I owe money to, his name is Carter. He's dangerous. He doesn't threaten. He acts. Daniel, I said, taking a shaky step forward, why didn't you come to me before? Why keep this secret? Because I ruined everything already, he whispered. I took loans. I gambled trying to fix it. I lied to Emily. I didn't want to lie to you too. He sank to his knees, tears spilling down his face. I thought I could pay it back quietly. But Carter didn't want the money anymore. He wanted control. He told me if I didn't do what he wanted, he'd make someone in my house fall. I thought he was bluffing. I didn't know he would actually come after us. The officers exchanged looks. The female officer lowered her weapon slightly, not all the way. So you believe Carter tampered with the jar you used, she said. Yes, Daniel whispered. I didn't know. I swear. I thought it was seasoning. Before anyone could speak again, a loud vibration buzzed on the kitchen counter. Daniel's phone. The screen lit up with a caller ID so chilling my breath froze. Carter. The female officer grabbed the phone. Don't move, she ordered Daniel. She put the call on speaker. A slow, deep voice flowed through the room. You made a big mistake, Danny boy. I told you to follow the plan. But no, you had to run to Mommy's house. The officer stepped closer to the phone. This is law enforcement. Identify yourself. Carter laughed. A low, ugly laugh. Oh, I know who you are. I see everything. His words crawled over my skin like ice. I warned. Daniel, Carter continued. If he didn't pay up, I'd take someone from his family. Doesn't matter who. A wife. A mother. Daniel choked on a sob. Please stop. Please. Emily's in the hospital. Well, Carter said lazily, that wasn't supposed to happen yet. But it's a good start. The female officer stiffened. We have your voice. You're incriminating yourself. Your location will be traced. You think I care? Carter hissed. I'm not done. Then the line went dead. The officer instantly moved. Track it, she shouted to her partner. The male officer rushed outside, radioing backup. Inside, the silence tightened around us like a rope. Lily was crying. Daniel was shaking. I felt my heart beating in my throat. The female officer turned to me. Mrs. Thompson, this man is dangerous and unpredictable. You all need to stay together. Don't leave my sight. But before we could even move toward the living room, a crash exploded from the backyard. Glass shattered. Something heavy fell. The officer drew her gun. Get behind me. We scrambled back as the kitchen door burst open. And a man stepped inside. Tall, broad, wearing dark clothes, eyes cold as stone. Carter. Daniel screamed. Lily gasped. I felt my knees go weak. You should have stayed quiet, Carter growled. Now I have to finish this myself. He took one step forward. And the officer fired a warning shot that cracked through the air like lightning. Freeze. Hands up. Carter lunged instead. The officer tackled him. They fought, crashing into the cabinets, knocking dishes to the floor. Carter swung wildly, strong and violent. The officer grunted, holding him back, trying to reach her cuffs. Daniel shouted, "Mom, stay back." Carter shoved the officer hard, sending her stumbling. He grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter. I screamed. He raised the knife. But before he could strike, the male officer burst in from outside and slammed into him full force. The knife flew across the room. Carter hit the ground. The officers wrestled him down, twisted his arms, locked the cuffs, and finally pinned him. "It's over, Carter," the officer shouted. Carter spat at the floor. "This isn't over. You hear me? Families like yours always break." They dragged him outside as backup sirens filled the street. And just like that, the nightmare was taken away in cuffs. Daniel collapsed into my arms, sobbing. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I almost destroyed everything." I held his face gently. "You made mistakes. But you didn't try to hurt us. Remember that." Lily hugged us both. We stood there trembling, but alive. Together. Later that night, after the police finished gathering evidence, we received a final call from the hospital. Emily was awake, and smiling weakly, asking for Daniel. That was when I finally allowed myself to breathe. The storm had passed. Our family was bruised, shaken, but not broken. And the life lesson: sometimes the people you fear aren't the ones who make mistakes, but the ones who hide in the shadows, waiting for those mistakes to grow. Families survive by facing truth, protecting each other, and never allowing fear to control them. As I locked my doors and turned off the lights, I whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. This Thanksgiving had almost stolen everything, but it also gave us something back. Unity, truth, and a second chance.